Today's episode is a book roundup about five very different novels, all of them deeply interested in memory, identity, love, and the ways people carry the past with them. Some of these were quiet and reflective, some darkly funny, some ambitious and sweeping across decades or even centuries. Not all of them worked for me in the same way, but all of them gave me something worth thinking about. I'll keep this spoiler free, focusing on themes, craft, and who I think each book will resonate with. Let's start with the most ambitious read. The Wondrous Life and Loves of Nella Carter. This novel asks a huge question right from the start. Is humanity worth saving? The story begins on a slave plantation where Nella Carter, an enslaved mixed race black and white woman, is dying of disease, and she meets death. They strike a bargain. If Nella can prove that humanity deserves to survive, death will spare the world. In return, Nella is granted immortality so that she can bear witness to humanity across time and record what she sees. What follows is a journey through decades and centuries. She becomes a writer, publishing under multiple identities, traveling widely, and forming relationships of many kinds romantic, platonic, fleeting, and profound. Again and again, she experiences the beauty of connection and the inevitability of loss, because immortality means outliving everyone she loves. These sections are where the novel truly shines. The writing is thoughtful and emotionally resonant. The author does an excellent job exploring creativity, love, and resilience alongside cruelty and injustice. Where the book faltered for me was in the modern day framing narrative. The story is structured as Nella recounting her life to a man she has just met, and there's an element of instant love that didn't feel fully earned. Because this relationship anchors the present day timeline, its weakness made the ending feel less impactful than it could have been. That said, the vast majority of this novel is deeply engaging and beautifully written. The next book is The Lantern of Lost Memories. This is a quiet, reflective, and gently imaginative novel that unfolds slowly but rewards patience. The story centers on Mr. Hirasaki, who runs a photography studio in the afterlife. His role is to guide the recently deceased through their transition by helping them select photographs that represent their lives. He even allows them to revisit a single day to take one final picture. The emotional hook is that while Mr. Hirasaki helps others preserve their memories, all he possesses is a single photograph of himself, completely without context, and the hope that one day someone will remember who he is. Each encounter introduces a new character and a new life story, giving surprising emotional depth to people who only appear briefly. Through these small moments, the novel explores memory, regret, love, and the quiet beauty of closure. This is not a fast or plot heavy book. It's contemplative and deeply human. If you enjoy stories that sit with grief and memory rather than dramatizing them, this one is for you. The next novel is The Bewitching. This was an uneven read for me. Silvia Moreno-Garcia's writing is, as always, elegant and atmospheric. She has a strong sense of mood, pacing, and historical texture. Unfortunately, the story itself took a long time to find its footing. The first three-quarters of the novel felt slow and meandering, with a heavy focus on details and subplots that didn't ultimately serve the central narrative. While the atmosphere was compelling on a sentence level, I found myself emotionally detached from the story for much of its length. The final quarter, however, was by far the strongest part. The pacing improved, the thematic threads came together, and the emotional stakes finally felt clear. I just wish that the novel had reached that point sooner. This is one of those books where I can admire the craft while still feeling underwhelmed by the overall experience. It ended up just being fine, not one that will really stay with me. Also, I would like to add the content warning of spoiler, incest, and sexual content. So let's follow this one up with My Sister the Serial Killer. This book is sharp, darkly funny, and deceptively layered. The story follows Korede, a nurse from a wealthy Lagos family who has spent her entire life protecting her younger sister, Ayula, even when that meant covering up the fact that Ayula keeps murdering her boyfriends. What keeps this novel so compelling is that it's not really about the murders. It's about loyalty, obligation, and the long shadow of family trauma. Through Korede's perspective, we see how both sisters were shaped by their abusive father in very different ways, one becoming hyper responsible and anxious, the other impulsive and dangerously carefree. The novel is tightly plotted and extremely efficient. Every sentence feels intentional. The author balances suspense and dark humor with real emotional insight, especially when exploring how love and resentment can exist side by side in a sibling relationship. It was short, clever, and unforgettable. And the last book I'll be covering in this roundup is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This was easily one of the most emotionally rich books in this roundup. The author creates characters who feel deeply real, flawed, contradictory, and driven by longing. Evelyn Hugo herself is a complex and fascinating protagonist, and her relationships, both platonic and romantic, are written with nuance that lingers long after the book ends. One of the most striking aspects of the novel is its portrayal of an abusive relationship. The author doesn't flatten it into something simple. Evelyn genuinely loves this man, and the love makes the abuse and the moments of tenderness far more devastating. It's a rare and honest depiction of how emotional attachment can coexist with harm. Beyond the relationships, the novel spans decades, weaving in Hollywood history, shifting social norms, and cultural taboos. It shows how these forces shape Evelyn's career, her choices, and the compromises she makes to survive and succeed. Glamorous and tragic, bold and intimate, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo captures the cost of ambition, the complexity of love, and the lifelong pursuit of authenticity. What stood out to me across all five of these books is how deeply they engage with memory, what we leave behind, what we preserve, and how love and identity persist across time in different ways. If you've read any of these, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if any of them sound like your kind of book, I hope you give them a try. Thanks for listening to the Lore Weaver podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, consider following the show so you don't miss any future reviews or deep dives. Until next time, keep exploring the lore.